Southampton made the perfect start to life in the Championship thanks to Che Adams' late winner at Sheffield Wednesday. And I've got to be honest, this is the first time in about 5 months I've been looking forward to discussing a game. I've spent all day looking forward to the podcast. Lots of smiley faces, lots of positivity. Glen, our first competitive win since March, and it felt good. It was a pleasure to watch at times.
It was very much so. After the opening sort of 5 minutes, we got caught on the transition, didn't we? And there was a bit of a scramble in our penalty area. That was a bit of a wake up call. But after that, we scored very early, obviously, with Nathan Teller's goal. I don't care what anyone says. I know officially it's not. But
was that a travesty that he was robbed?
Absolutely. We'll probably get onto that later. But yeah. So it was great to go 1-0 up, and it looked for about 5 or 6 minutes that we were going to absolutely steamroller them. But we got to half time, it was still 1-0 because basically Sheffield Wednesday dropped it's like 4, 5, 50 yards, wasn't it? They didn't show any ambition at all to get out of defence and just tried to stay in the game, which fair play to them, they did. So there was always that nagging doubt at half time that it would only take a set piece to get back into it, and sure enough, that's what happened. That's something that we are obviously going to have to work on. We've got a new set piece coach coming in. Though what can you do when there's a geezer who's 6'8" or whatever that centre back is, because he's gigantic, headed it back. But there you go, 1-1, and you did wonder if we'd obviously been trying to pass Sheffield Wednesday to death, and it had been going really, really well in that regard. And you just wondered, having had the setback, will we keep it going? And we did. Substitutions were made at the right time. Stuart Armstrong, huge difference when he came on. Che Adams came on, obviously, to freshen things up, and we got the goal. And the goal seemed to be, to me anyway, a direct result of the fact that Sheffield Wednesday had been chasing us around all game, and they just couldn't keep it going. They just got tired. And Ward-Prowse made that run, and absolutely no one went with him, and that was where the goal came from. Again, it's a lovely weighted pass from Walker Peters, and Che was there to sweep it in, so it was great. And then we had 9 minutes of keep ball, which was fantastic. Just approximately 100 passes in 9 minutes, and even Bobby Madley, he's a dog lover, even Bobby Madley couldn't find any extra time to comply with the directives. So I'd like to talk about Bobby and the refereeing at some point, because he was different. Be interesting to know whether that's just what we're going to have to get used to in the Championship with referees, or whether it was just Bobby Madley being himself. Because we used to have him in the Premier League about 4 or 5 years ago, and he was absolutely shocking then. So I don't know whether it's him or whether that's the sort of general standard we're going to have.
The new directives, yeah.
But so many good performances from so many players. It's like the perfect day, really. I mean, first off, we won. Secondly, we played really well. The style of play, and 3, there were things to work on. So it's not anything you can get complacent about. We have the transitions to work on. We have the set piece defending to work on, and we have the sort of when to release the ball into the strikers. There was a bit. Occasionally, you'd see Armstrong make a run, and he wouldn't get the ball when he should have done. And sometimes you'd see the ball come in from the wings, and there was no one making a run. And it's just that sort of telepathy, if you like, that only comes with work on the training ground. So there needs to be a bit of improvement there. So overall, perfect start to the season.
Steve, it's been a while, but plenty of positives to discuss tonight. What impressed you the most about Friday?
Just the composure, I think. The fact that we didn't get completely flapped by Sheffield Wednesday equalising. I mean, Saints teams of the past, even Saints teams of the very recent past, would have folded like a deck of cards as soon as that equaliser went in. But actually, apart from, I don't think they had another shot, did they? It was, Bazunu's, they've had one shot on target. Bazunu's got no chance with it. And Bazunu's touches have mostly just been passing the ball out to either centre-backs or chipping it over the striker to a full-back to get us sort of moving up the pitch again. And so excuse me, he won't have had a quieter game for us. I wouldn't have thought. So yeah, I mean, a lot of positives. I think the only slight thing I thought was our tempo and kind of the kind of clinical method of the way that we were passing eased off after about half an hour for about half an hour. So kind of either side of half time, where it did kind of feel as if we were a little bit passing for passing's sake. You had a lot of times where we kind of manufactured the ball into a decent area, kind of about 20 yards in from the touchline, and either Teller or Edozie would be in a lot of room out on the wing. And rather than put the ball out there for them to then run at the fullback, and they both had their respective fullbacks on the run completely. I mean, Edozie was brilliant, I thought, running at Callum Patterson. And yeah, we didn't really, given that was such a, we worked out fairly early on that was quite a good avenue for us to attack. We didn't quite use it as much as I think I'd hoped. But I kind of fully accept I'm kind of splitting hairs a little bit here, but it's.
But that's what we're used to as well.
but we will, at the end of the day, we will play against much better teams than Sheffield Wednesday. I think that's the brutal truth, and we've still only scraped that game 2-1. When given the dominance, I mean, there was a danger that that game ends 1-1, everyone's saying, "Oh well, this is typical Russell Martin team, all fart, no shit." And we'd have basically ended up with a point, having basically been camped in their half, but kind of replicating that scene from The Simpsons where Portugal and Mexico pass the ball between each other without going anywhere. So it's, yeah, I think in many ways we kind of got away with it, if you're kind of being overly harsh, but at the same time we've kept going, and as Glenn said, they were tired from kind of half-heartedly chasing us about. They sat so deep that they weren't really interested in pressing us anywhere sort of within probably 40 yards. Like anything between their goal and 40 yards, they'd come towards us. Anywhere near our goal, they just weren't interested in the slightest. It seems as if they were almost playing for a draw. Other than that first 5 minutes, they were playing for a draw more or less from the start. So to break them down in that manner, that late in the game is, yeah, it's great confidence boost. That I mean, as far as Opta are concerned, both of our centre forwards have scored already this season, and I think just the performances of individuals were really heartening. I thought Smallbone was excellent. There weren't many passes from him in particular that were that you would kind of say were pointless. There was a little bit of toing and throwing in sort of late in the game where we were just trying to keep possession to run the clock down. But earlier in the game, almost all of his passes had a purpose. It was creating a different angle for somebody. It was passing through the lines to Alcaraz, who, I mean, this seems to kind of be his thing, that for 45, 50 minutes he's brilliant, and then he kind of disappears a little bit into the ether. Just a stamina thing, I think, that the club can work on. And the one thing that was very noticeable when Stu Armstrong came on, all of a sudden we had players that were happy to dribble with the ball as well. So Stu was dribbling through the channel, and then also had Edozie outside him who also wanted to run with it, and that just gave Wednesday an extra problem to have. And all of a sudden, you're then, not only are we just passing in front of them and around them, we're also using a bit of pace, because I mean it was something we identified previously, that they're quite a slow team. Apart from that guy they brought on as sub midway through second half up front, they didn't really run at us. And I think that was quite key for us, being able to keep them at arm's length. Really, they didn't pose any, other than from that one set piece and the early little bit of a scramble. There were no alarms, and it
felt like we dealt with him as well.
Yeah, kind of worryingly comfortable and competent. certainly unexpected given everything that's kind of come before it. But yeah, I mean, let's not get complacent. Norwich on Saturday is likely to be a much harder examination. You'd think they looked okay by the sound of it on Saturday. And again, another team that went to the end with a late winner. So
well, we'll find out in a second because we've got somebody from the Norwich podcast coming on, so we'll be able to get his opinion on that. Alfie, that first half to me was evidence that the players have adapted pretty quickly to the new way of thinking. If I think back to the last time we played Sheffield Wednesday, there were a number of players that were involved in both games, but that was much better on Friday night. A really good example that they've taken on board what the new manager's trying to get across.
Yeah, and I think I've got to apologise first of all, because I don't know if it's the shock of winning a league game or just seeing Southampton play so well, but I've come down with quite a bad cold. I think it is just a case of complete and utter surprise because it was so good, like you say. It's only been 4 or 5 weeks. But Steve made the point that I wanted to make, actually, and it was I do think that late winner was really important, not for within the club, because, Russell Martin, Jason Wilcox, they weren't going to be concerned if they drop that game 1-1 because they know it's going to happen at times. They're going to dominate teams and they're going to miss the final touch and not get the points. But for supporters who travelled with over 3,000, really good all game. What you didn't want to see was a continuation of what we saw at Russell Martin Swansea a lot of the time, and that was 80% of the ball, record-breaking passes, but not actually win the match. So it was a really big moment, I felt. But yeah, I mean, so many good performances. Will Smallbone, I'm very proud to be a member of the. I've said Will Smallbone should be playing for a long time club, and anyone who doesn't believe me, go back and check what I've said on Twitter and whatnot. I've said that he will be playing, and he should be, and I'm really pleased for him. I think he looks excellent, and it's almost like when Romeo Lavia leaves for 40-50 million this week or next week, you don't really need to replace him. I'm sure they will in terms of a body in some way, but Will Smallbone will have that role now for the rest of the season, and a load of players just showed themselves as a level above as well. I mean, Cour, as we haven't mentioned. But he was absolutely phenomenal. Clearly too good for the Championship. Long may that continue. I'm not sure it will. And I want to say about Jack Stephens as well, because Russell Martin said in Turkey that a player is going to look a lot different to how they did the last season, the season before in Jack Stephens' case. And I thought he did, a few passes I think he put astray in the first sort of 30, 45 minutes. And I think there was actually the first 5 minutes, the carnage that ensued that should have seen Wednesday go ahead was Stephens misplacing a pass, if I'm not wrong. But he was unbelievable in the end. I felt the way he brings the ball forward, so brave on the ball, just really progressive. And yeah, it's nice to see it all come together so quickly. But as Steve and Glen have mentioned, there's going to be a lot tougher opposition than that. And there will be games where they have 75-8% of the ball and they lose 1-0 or draw 1-0.
Let's talk about Teller and that goal then, Glenn. No doubt in your mind, but Opta, whoever they are, seem to think that actually that was Adam Armstrong.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that drives me nuts in football to do with the administration of football is inconsistency. So if that had been if Adam Armstrong had been a defender, would it have been given as an own goal? No, because it was on target, and end of story really. Teller's hit it. I saw it on I was watching on the telly. I saw it on the first replay that it had flicked off him. But no, I think it's insane to give a goal to a player who's basically trying to get out of the way. He's not looking. He's got his eyes shut. He tried not to get smacked in the face. And I did think it was funny when you watch the following, another replay. He actually wheels away to try and claim the goal, but all the players have run to the guy who's actually had the shot. So. No, I mean, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. But it would have been with the noise going on around Nathan Teller, that rather pathetic effort from
the campaign,
Burnley.
the social media campaign.
Just embarrassing for them. I think it would have been nice to have had Nathan Teller's name on the score sheet after 6-7 minutes, whatever it was. But no, it is what it is. They've given it to Adam Armstrong. He's 2 goals in 2 games now, isn't he? After Jordan Henderson gave him the ball against Liverpool tail end of last season. So maybe we don't need another striker after all.
18-4 in the Championship for Adam Armstrong.
Marvellous. Dying to dig that one out, haven't you?
Steve, I tell you what, I think I was surprised with for just the one new signing really in the starting 11, which is Ryan Manning. The rest was kind of the loanies coming back. What did you make of Ryan Manning and everyone that had been out on loan last season coming back in? I know we've spoken about Smallbone and Teller, but impressive stuff.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, Smallbone and Teller were playing at this level last year, so they know the requirements. They know what it takes to win games of football in the Championship. So I think leveraging that that experience makes a whole lot of sense. And ultimately, realistically, they're both going to be sticking around. Burnley don't seem to want to pay more than a couple of pies and a whippet for their best player for last season. Apparently, 20 million quid in the Premier League. That's not what they're about. So I don't think Teller's going to be moving anywhere. So yeah, build the team around the likes of him. I think for this season, he's going to be getting plenty of opportunities to score. Especially if the fullback lets him cut inside 4 times like he did on Friday night. Stevens was very good. And I've said this before, that he's a really good organizer of other people. The problem has always been at the top level whether he can kind of organize his own game as well. And I think at the slightly lower level, I think he's got enough time and the ability and the capability of doing that at this level. So yeah, I mean, if Prowse does eventually go, it does sound as if he'll be captain from that point onwards. So which I think most people would probably say is probably reasonable. No huge complaints. Manning I thought was decent. Certainly first half especially. Got into some really good positions. Unlucky not to score. Half decent save from the keeper. And yeah, him and Adozie linked up really well. I thought for the first half especially. Second half he wasn't quite as adventurous. I think that was part of the issue that I had for sort of a 25-30 minute period, was that the fullbacks weren't quite getting into the right positions to help the wingers out and create that space for players to make runs. Which is why you ended up seeing the likes of Adam Armstrong making loads of runs and just not receiving the ball at all. I think he only had like 3 touches in that second half. Which, while I mean a lot of people will kind of pin that on him, I don't think that's his fault. He was making the runs and you could see it kind of right at the edge of camera. He was making a lot of runs, either coming short or bending in to go in behind, and the ball just never arrived. So that's one thing that I'm sure Russell Martin will be looking at.
Yeah, as we said, there's things to work on in the week, isn't there?
We're not the finished article. We're not going to be for weeks, at least.
I'm going to ask you all about your player of the week, which is something new we're going to do this season. If you're watching live and you want to get involved, who impressed you the most this week? Who would be your player of the week? Glenn, just a quick word on the refereeing. Obviously, all that extra injury time. God knows how many bookings. Personally, nice not to have VAR. When the goal goes in, you're like, it is a goal and we can celebrate, and that's not to be underestimated. But it'd be interesting to see if that level of pedantic refereeing is kept up going forward.
Well, I mean, with the new rules, you kick the ball away, you're going to get booked. That has always been in the rules as far as I'm aware, but they're just applying it now. Adam Armstrong's got a book for that, and that was fair enough because he deliberately just walked away with the ball and then booted it. Fair enough. The Sheffield Wednesday guy got booked. I think it's the guy who scored their goal, Gregory. He got booked for kicking it about 2 foot.
Towards the dugout as well, wasn't it?
I mean, rules is rules, and the referee Bobby Madley has applied the rules, but then Josh Windass scythed through Carl Walker-Peters twice and nothing. So it always sort of, this is the inconsistency thing again. So you can tap a ball 2 foot, which hurts absolutely nobody, and get booked, but you can scythe through someone twice and get nothing. And Wednesday had another player on the right wing, Delgado, who got booked for the tackle on Adozie when he stood on his foot. And then he trashed through the back of someone else in the second half. And I'm thinking in the Premier League, both of those two would probably have been sent off. So, like I said at the start, I don't know if that's Bobby Madley things with regards to the tackles, or whether that's just the way it is in the Championship. I suspect a bit of both. So, I'd be interested to see how that goes on. But yeah, I spoke to the Sheffield Wednesday lad we had on last week, and he said to me, "Oh, within a couple of weeks, you'll be wanting VAR back." I'm really not sure. Yeah, I'm really not sure. After that Theo Walcott thing at Brighton last year, And like I said, that finished me off with VAR. I've just had enough of it. So yeah, it was nice to see Che stick the ball in the net. You could see the linesman didn't have his flag up. Happy days. Let's move on. But the officiating is going to be somewhat different, and we're going to win some, we're going to lose some, and then we just have to see how it goes.
Well, just before we move on to preview the Norwich game, I'm going to ask you for your player of the week. Alfie, who impressed you the most this week, either in the build-up to the game or on Friday night itself, if you had to single one person out?
I think there's probably a couple, but I mean, I think most people will probably say Will Smallbone, just in the sense that he had more touches of the ball than anybody else, more passes. I think he played 145, 146 passes, put 4 of them astray. Just set the tempo, really. So I probably have to say Will Smallbone. But you can make a case for Walker Peters, you can make a case for Jack Stevens and a few others as well, probably.
Can I make a case for Stu Armstrong? Because I thought he injected something different into the game when he came on. And I know that he sort of plays a game, misses a game, plays a game. And actually, I thought when he came on, do you know what? We might nick this. That was the moment that I thought we might be all right here. Steve, player of the week for you?
Yeah, I mean, Smallbone's certainly up there. I think ultimately the key intervention was Nathan Teller in the first half, and he was running their left back ragged. So yeah, that'd be my choice.
Nathan Teller. Glenn?
Honourable mentions to Carl Walker-Peters and Ryan Manning at fullbacks. I thought they were both excellent. Sort of linking in with their relative number 8 and the winger on their side. But the one who did it for me was Sam Edozie. Just beats players for fun. Gets kicked a lot, and he's going to have to get used to that. But he gets up and he gets on with it. And he's quite happy to take on the player the next time, even if he's been crunched. And his turn of pace is ridiculous. He goes from 0 to see you later in an instant. And there's a lot more to come from him. He's mentioned his end product that Russell Martin wants to work on. And there were question marks over his attitude a little bit last year. But so far he seems to have, he seems to be excellent.
Okay.
This season so far. So happy days.
We're going to put together a poll on our social media so you can have a vote for that. I feel like we need a catchy jingle for TSP Player of the Week, like Harry Hill used to have on TV Burp. So maybe we can work on that for next week. But thank you.
Or not.
Get your guitar out, Glenn.
No.
Some with stalagmites and stalactites. Is that the thing?